most Gemaras, or all Gemaras, there, and the book you Sefer you gave a diagram for each individual case, okay? Each case that the Mishnah is going to give, that's why the Gemaras give a diagram for each individual case, okay? All right. And then you've got, let's say, a situation where he married her, but she died, okay? And therefore the question is, who does she, all right, so on. Then you got the grandmothers, or you got, all right, and these got to be brothers of the same father, okay? So if they're brothers if they're only brothers through the mother and not through the father, doesn't work, okay? So that's why I did this kind of a general diagram. All right, but as I said, again, as we go through now into the Gemara, okay? I'm going to phrase the introduction that closes at the introduction, except to add 2 or 3 last points. Number 1, Corinne made an interesting suggestion, okay? That in other words, looking as we start the parak, do we see the mitzvah of Yibum in a kind of tension with the whole negative prohibition of arayas? Does it apply only to particular situations? Does it apply to all situations? Okay, that's one element that could be, and is therefore is Yibum then an exception? Do we make it an exception? If it's an exception, okay, then other situations, okay, can still be an example where erva, okay, arayos does apply, and that's why it gets more complicated. Okay, we mentioned brothers through the same father. I just want to point out, remember the story in Yosef, where they say, Vayamru Shnei Masar Avadecha Achim Anachnu B'nei Ish Echad. Okay, so using that pasuk as an example, it tells us you could have multiple brothers, okay? And therefore, generally, it's the oldest one that has the first responsibility. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one other thing, that the Yavam, man who takes the woman, that initial bia, he's not allowed to enjoy, which is pretty close.
He's supposed to be doing it for the L'Shem mitzvah.
Correct, but that's pretty close to impossible. So already by the time of the Mishnah,
we're going to get to that. That's why chalitza is phrased first. Right, that's why. All right, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Okay? Right. Okay, let's go in. All right? So we have a Gemara, a Mishnah that now tells us, we've already learned that it's got to be brothers through the same father. Tashu Achim Yachdav. He's got to be born at the same time. Okay, restricted to marry. Alive at the same time, right? If he is saris, if one of the brothers that's supposed to be, in other words, incapable of producing progeny himself, okay, no yibum, all right? So that's, by the way, that's important to keep in mind, because really that's almost the flip aspect of Eilonis. The Eilonis is going to be mentioned in our text, but if the brother is a saris, the Mishnah doesn't refer to that. Okay,
they're men.
So what? Okay, he's still not capable then. All right, so Chamesh Yisrei Nashim. We have, I'm going to say 15 examples of women that are arai in the status of arayos. Potrot sorotehen, and they will exempt their co-wives. I'm going to use co-wives instead of rival wives. Just sounds nicer, but the language litzror, based on the original pasuk, really means
Sarah.
All right, Sarah, Penina, and whatever her other name was, the other one. Okay, all right. Vitzarot sorotehen. and the co-wives of co-wives, right? So it can go on to the fact that somebody marries, okay, he performed Yibum for here, but then what happens when he dies?
The next husband.
Okay,
next
then
brother.
this brother has got to deal with other co-wives from here, besides this one, and besides this one's other co-wives. So she could have had a co-wife here, could have had a co-wife here, so you could have had multiple co-wives. Okay,
Boys, we get
all right. Okay, now, tzorote, min hachalitza umin hayibum. Again, we could see that there could have been a difficult, a argument, the machloket, between which should take precedence. Should the yibum take precedence? Is that really the mitzvah that we just read in Dvarim? Okay, or are they both mitzvahs? Because there could be a situation, as we've just seen, that he can't do yibum whatsoever. He's not permitted to do yibum, and the only mitzvah that's given to him could be chalitza. That's the case. All right? That's
if you can't do Yibum, you can't do Talit.
yes, no, but there are situations where he can't do yibum and he's required to do chalitza.
It's only
Okay? Now you want to argue that's the Rabbanan, that's a separate issue. Okay, whether it's still right to, but he has to still do chalitza then. Okay? So it could be that that's the reason that the chalitza is phrased here first, as opposed to saying yibum and chalitza, right? Ad sof ha'olam, and that continues. Okay, ve'elu hein, and now the Gemara is going to give us all those 15 examples, right? Now, the very first one is Bito. Why his daughter? Okay, the problem we have is in the next line in the Mishnah tells us Bat Ishto. Okay, so if you understood Bito as his own daughter, why then does the Mishnah have to include Bat Ishto, is the daughter of his wife? Therefore, that's why some argue that Rashi understood Bito as a daughter out of wedlock. Okay, and those who want to see, if you look in the middle of the Amud and Tosfot, Bito Perusha Kuntras, Bito me anusato. That's why he's just citing. And then he's going to give, Tosfot's going to give a different also explanation. Because he's going to tell us that's why Rashi may have had to say Bito in that context, since the later part of the Mishnah says Bat Ishto. Okay?
Yeah, or Bat Ishto means a woman, her.
We're going to get, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Okay? All right. So that's one. Ubat Bito, the daughter of his daughter. Ubat Beno, the daughter of his son. Bat Ishto. Okay, we want to say that could be the daughter of his wife. Okay, or it could be she came into this marriage, it's her second marriage or whatever. She has a daughter from a previous marriage, so it's stepdaughter. Okay, so there are multiple ways. Okay, so that would be a way of a different explanation from what Rashi's bat, to get out of Rashi's problem where he had to say Bito was Anusato. Okay, and both Art Scroll and Koren point this out, okay, in their explanations. Okay, now Ubat Bena, the daughter of her son. Okay, in the end, all right, so she had a son. Okay, he has a daughter, so this is his what? Stepdaughter, step granddaughter. Ubat Bita, again, daughter of her daughter. Okay. Chamoto, his mother-in-law. Okay, we're not going to go into that whole diagram, but you can see it there in Art Scroll. Okay, ve'im chama'ait, ve'im chamato, the mother of his mother-in-law. Ve'im chamav, the mother of his father-in-law. Okay, achoto me'imo. Okay, the sister from his mother, in other words, his maternal aunt. Va'achot imo, va'achot ishto. Okay, the sister of his mother, the sister of his wife. Okay, right. Ve'eshet achiv me'imo. Okay, and the wife of his brother from his mother. That's his maternal half brother's spouse. Okay, all right. So we get into, so we're seeing this whole list as we go on now to the next, right? Okay, so as I said again, in each case, that's why I've got an art scroll here too. All right. You can see that art scroll has given us, okay, and Koren does also, if you're using Koren. Each book has a diagram for each example, okay? Some diagrams are a little easier to follow than others, okay? If you're going to use art scroll, I strongly suggest that in the general introduction on Roman numeral XLVIII, you look at that model diagram, okay? Koren also gives you a model diagram, and Tzvi in that sefer, they also give a model how to read the diagram, okay? Because all the diagrams want to be able to tell you, right? What happens if this one dies? Or what happens if then this one dies? Okay? Because then the other next brother has, right? So if this is the case, if this is the scenario that I'm pointing out for the moment, that the first two brothers died, and then the third brother is still available, the question is, you've got multiple co-wives that he has to deal with. Okay? All right, so that's mother-in-law,
We're up to.
maternal sister, mother's
Isaac,
sister, right?
Shlomo, Yibno.
Right, yeah, just a second. Maternal brother's wife. Okay, then we've got on 2B1, right? Eshet achiv shelo haya olamo, that example, daughter-in-law, kalato. That's the last one, all right? So what happens? Okay, so now we're on the top of Amud Beis. Ve'eshet achiv shelo haya olamo. Okay, that's that example, all right? And art scrolls, again, dealing with co-wives and yibum, and one yibum and then a second yibum. Okay. And then the kalato. Okay, his daughter-in-law. Now, Gemara is going to have, as we finish up the Mishnah in a couple minutes, what is our big concern? Our big concern that the Gemara is going to ask first is, why did they list it in this order? Okay, if they shouldn't have been listed in a different order, and that's going to be the question we'll get to. Harai elu potrot sarotehen. Okay, in all of these cases, okay, if they fall before the yibum, okay, and the Yabam, I'm sorry, and it's carried out, they will then exempt the other co-wives. V'tzarot tzarotehen, min hachalitza u'min hayibum. They exempt them from requiring one or the other. Ad sof ha'olam. Okay, all right, now, v'chulan, and in all of these examples, yeah, we just said, if they fall before the Yavam, why they use the word fall, I'm not sure. Okay? In other words, just question of lashon. But maybe that could be the part, right? Imetu, if they die.
The woman.
Right? And we're talking about all of these, namely the list of the 15 women that we've just spelled out. Okay? If they die. O mianu. or if in any occasion, let's say they were a minor, okay, and they refused, okay, with this individual, all right? O nitgarshu, or they were divorced, okay? O shenimtzeu ilonit, okay? Or she was found to be incapable of having children, okay? Sarotehen mutarot, okay? What does that mean, sarotehen mutarot? Okay, we would consider that in this, they are permitted for yibum.
Another woman.
Another brother
Must
do yibum for those women. Okay, so the one woman, it could be that a woman could be, so to speak, exempt herself from the situation because of she had been divorced or she was incapable of producing children. But that doesn't mean that she's going to exempt her co-wife. Okay, why not? Because that because if the brother died, okay, where are you? Who asked? That's it, right? So I come back, okay? This woman over here was incapable of having children.
Right, so what am I?
Okay, so therefore, he does not perform yibum with her,
Right,
okay?
who would?
No, because the marriage is considered as never having
It's
happened.
it's not a valid marriage. It's not a legal marriage.
The wife
But he
would-
still has to perform yibum. If he
With one
died
of the
without
legitimate
children,
wives.
he still has to perform yibum with this co-wife,
In this
okay?
case, with the legitimate wife.
okay? Because her marriage is considered a valid legal marriage,
100%.
okay?
Yeah.
That's why I use this general diagram.
I would say she's incapable of having children when we look back at our homicide.
What?
No, because the point is, he may have married her as a minor. And all right,
She was 10
and
years
therefore it
old
was
when she married.
unknown what her sexual status was.
Again,
Hold on, Mike.
But at any point in a woman's life, to say that she's incapable of having children, if we look back at our homicide.
It's
No,
true,
that.
okay? But the point is okay, but the point being is that at a point where she should be capable, okay, and it's not. And she has not been,
When, if he did marry an island,
yeah.
in other words, if she's
It's
25.
considered
Then
kedushin
it's a
ta'ud.
valid marriage and it would and the normal cases apply. This is a special case. He married a little girl. As she matured, it became evident she was
She-
unable
no,
to
she-
have.
Number one, she could show physical signs that aren't there that should be there. Or physical signs that are, okay?
Are there and shouldn't be, like
Yeah.
a beard.
Okay, whatever it is, okay? Or she should have shown signs that aren't, or she shows signs that shouldn't be there, okay? So that would be a good clue. But that's considered a kedushay ta'ut, and therefore that's not why it's not considered a valid marriage, okay? At least one of the, what I did, I'm going to continue in just a second. I also listened yesterday to somebody's whole shiur on this, okay, as part. And one of the points he argued in his shiur was that remember that while it was important to produce progeny, okay, and that was a key statement in the Torah, okay, as for the purpose of Yibum, okay, the rabbis were also concerned about that it be a legitimate, valid marriage reflecting a relationship. Okay, that was also another point.
Yeah, you know, it's psychological also. Originally, she was fine, and then she got loud or sick, and therefore she could not produce any more children anymore. But that's not from the beginning.
That's
Was
not
a
an
legitimate
island.
one. And this was not an island.
That's right.
It changed before he died, and even though he didn't have children.
But that wouldn't be,
She's not an
but
island
she
if
wouldn't
she's
be
a
considered,
It's a legitimate wife, therefore, so she is. But now that you did have children, you get the evil with her.
What? We'll come back to it. Okay. Okay. Oceanim Alanis, Sarotein Mutarot. That's where we just stopped. Okay, so we said those other co-wives, in that case, they would not be exempted, but they would be obligated for evil. Okay. Ve'iyata yachol lomar b'chamoto u'be'em chamoto. And if, okay, you want to say regarding his mother-in-law or the mother of his mother-in-law, u'be'em chamav, or the mother of his father-in-law, shenimtzeu ailanit, o shemianu, okay, that they perhaps, okay, could be an islandese or could have refused. Ketzad potrot sarotehen. How would it be possible then to say that they would exempt their
Because
co-wife?
it can't possibly happen.
Okay, all right.
Come on,
Okay.
look at this here.
In other words, remember, he wouldn't have married a woman from her, okay, if she couldn't do it. Okay. Haita bito, or achat mikol ha'arayot, ha'elu nisuot la'achi, if his daughter, okay, or one of these other examples of women regarding arayot, okay, were married to his brother, velo isha acheret, and he had another wife, okay? So again, I come back to, okay, multiple situations, right? So brother A, Shimon there is married to, right? And now here we're going to deal with the question, Ruvain, what's going on there? Okay. So, Haita bito o achat mi lachi, velo isha acheret, and he had another wife. Okay. Umate and died.
Then the new brother.
Right? So you have a co-wife who comes to the second brother who also has an earlier wife. Okay. So now in this case, let's say brother number two is just he has his first wife, but now he's supposed to be doing yibum. Okay. Right.
And then he dropped.
What happens? And he dies, right? Umaid, kashem should be tob to Ra, the same way that his daughter is exempt. Kachtzarata to Ra. So likewise, the co-wife, okay, is exempt. In other words, I'm going to phrase it, the old first wife, okay, is now going to be exempt. Okay,
She's a co-wife.
because she became a co-wife when he did yibum for his older brother who died. Okay, so in other words, so in a sense, you could increase the number of co-wives, okay, each time there's a deceased. Okay. Now, what happens? Kach tzarat ptura, halcha tzarat bito. Okay, the co-wife of his daughter would go. V'niseit la'achiv hasheni. She would go and then marry the next brother. Okay, that's our guy over here, right? Shimon, Levi, and Ruvain over there. Okay, v'niseit la'achiv hasheni. Velo isha acheret. And let's say he had an original wife. Okay. Now she becomes a co-wife because he had to do yibum, who had to do yibum. Okay. So that was a situation. Umeit he died. Kashem shetzar at bito ptura. So likewise, the co-wife of the co-wife exempts. Afilu hein me'ah, even if it goes up to 100.
100 brothers.
Okay, no matter the number of brothers. The only example we had was the 12 there, okay, from Yaakov. All right, Kate said, how is that possible? Im metu tsarotehen mutarot. Okay, if the co-wives died, okay, im metu, if they died, all right, the co-wives should be permitted. In other words, should be required to have evil. Haita bito o echat mikol ha'arayot ha'elu. Okay, if it was his daughter or one of the other arayot, nisuot la'achiv, were married to his brother. Velo, and his brother, Isha Acheret, had another wife. Meta, died, Bito. O Nitgasha, the daughter that died, or got divorced. V'achar kach Meta Chiv, and then afterwards the brother died. Sarata Muteret, then the co-wife is permitted. V'chol hayich. Right, they're no longer, in other words, that ends the cycle. The chol hayichola lema'en. So now we get to a new issue. Okay, we said that one of the examples that would end is either the death or the miyun or the divorce. Okay, so we're now citing that, okay, example. We just dealt with the whole situation of the death, right? When we said Nusi Alechi Velo Isha Cheret Meta, the daughter died or she got a divorce, right? So what happens? V'chol hayichola lema'en velo mi'ana, and one who is able to refuse and did not do so, right? Sarata choletzet velo mityabemet. Okay, the co-wife then, okay, is required to have chalitza and not yibum.
Because
Right.
it's not a biblical matter.
It's a rabbinic, okay, it's rabbinic considered, rabbinic and not right. Okay, we get now to the Gemara, right? And the Gemara is going to have, as I said, suggested this question is what was the order of the Mishnah's list? Okay, Michdi, since the following, Kuhu me'achot ha'isha, all of these are learned really from the same pasuk. Okay, that is talks about the pasuk that we read.
Right, sister.
Okay, namely, right. Right, we said it was Ervat Eshet Achicha Lo Tigaleh, Ervat Achicha Hu, right? Ervat Isha Ubita, all of that. Okay. So what happens? Yalfinan, we learn it from all of those examples. If that's the case, is the Gemara. In other words, if we learn these other examples of arayos from really that one pasuk, litne achot isha bereisha. Why doesn't our Mishnah teach this one example first? V'chi tema, and if you want to say, Tana, chumre nakat, and what the Tana did is the reason he chose the order that he did in citing the Mishnah was he wanted to go based on stringency. Okay, what happens there? Rabbi Shimon, then that must be that our Mishnah then is authored by Rabbi Shimon. The Amar Sreifa Chamura, because he argues in a machloket between Rabbi Shimon and the Chachamim, okay, that burning is a more severe punishment than stoning. Okay, and that's based again on a pasuk. But if you're using Art Scroll, you can look at 2b4 note number 20 that clarifies that. Okay. Ihachi, if that's the case, litnei chamoto bereisha. If that's the case, they should have listed his mother-in-law in the first place. Deikar sreifa b'chamato k'tiva, right? Because there we see that the issue of burning, okay, so is listed,
Punishment.
is the most severe punishment. If you're going to list it, it's based on severity of punishment, okay? Va'od, and furthermore, batar chomoto litnei kalato. Then after his mother-in-law, then you would list his daughter-in-law, okay? Because sure punishment was based on stoning as opposed to burning, okay? So if he tells Rabbi Shimon that burning is the most significant, most stringent punishment, the order should have been different in listing, okay? Therefore, that's why he says, the Gemara tells us, the batar shreifa skila chamura, that after burning, then Rabbi Shimon felt that stoning was the next most stringent. Ela bito kevan da'atya midrasha chavivale. But we're going to say that perhaps he started off with the reference to the daughter because it was based on a drasha and he was particularly fond of that drasha. Okay, and we're going to stop right there, all right? And then we'll pick up tomorrow. Kuhunami midrasha atu. The objection of the Gemara is, wait a second, you said all of these examples were based on the drash of one pasuk. So how can you say, okay, if they're all drushes, that's with the reason that he chose the daughter first? Okay.
Everyone have a friendly forum. See you with. Be well. We'll meet again.
Where's my shallot manos? We're laughing at not giving the shallot manos.
Why doesn't the Gemara start off with the most basic case?
Yeah,
That's too easy, right? It doesn't
What?
start off with it doesn't start off with the most basic case. Two brothers. Right?
All right, Rabbanan Kaddish. And then. Amen. Yishmir Rabban.
An observation. Why does the Gemara start off with the most basic?
That's the Gemara's question. No, ultimately, that's the question. If you got all of this from a drasha,
Right.
That's why I made that statement.
why?
I guess it assumes it's too easy.
I personally,
Yeah.
that's why I
And
think
he knew that, so.
Corin raised the issue, okay, and didn't phrase it so much on that the issue becomes what's the order.
Right.
The issue becomes, since we know that these other examples are issues,
Yeah.
are all issues of Erva, Arias, is Eshet Ach
Yeah.
the only exception, and therefore that's, I have it,
It just seems to start in the middle.
yeah.
Okay.
Be well. Have a good day. Take care.